Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Mayer, and I'm a musician this morning. I'm so happy to be here with you all. I have a little prelude song that I'd like to play for you, but it does have a part for you all on it if you'd like to join in. So let me teach it to you. The chorus goes like this. Let everybody in, everybody in. Everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Let's try that. Let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Okay. So that chorus will come around several times if you'd like to join in. Okay, here we go. Jesus spoke, entreating them to live together in a great circle of love. And when his followers asked him then who should be included, Jesus said, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 circle, circle. Oligarchs, tyrants try to keep some in and everyone else outside, till revolution sweeps across the land and the people all stand. The common folk cry, let everybody, everybody, everybody in, circle, circle. Everybody, 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 circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a class or creed. Sometimes a circle is made of only men. Until Susan B. Anthony says, what about me? Let me in. Let everybody, everybody in, everybody in, circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody. Sometimes a circle is a privileged thing, excluding people for the color of their skin. Till the voice of Martin Luther King says, let freedom ring, let me in. Let everybody, everybody in, everybody in, circle, circle. Everybody, 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 circle, circle. Gay and straight, rich and poor, whole and broken, open up that door. The more we are, the greater we become. After all, we all are one. Bring in the people, but don't stop there. Bring in the fish in the sea, birds in the air. Bring in the rivers wide and mountains tall. We go together, not at all. Let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody in the circle, circle. Everybody, everybody in, everybody in, circle, circle. Everybody, 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 circle, circle.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church, a church of open minds and loving hearts since 1866, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes, your identity are welcome here. Special thank you to guest musician Peter Mayer for being here this morning. We're so glad for your gifts of music. So glad to have you here. This Thursday evening, you can join us here for a special annual service echoing the traditions of the Jewish Passover and the Christian Holy Week. It's a reflective evening service on themes of liberation, the miracle of shared meals, and ends with a traditional Universalist communion with our church's historic altar table and Bible and communion ware. All are welcome to this service of the Welcome Table. This is this Thursday night at 7 o'clock in person in the sanctuary or online. Each month, we support a justice partner through learning and giving. For April, half of our Sunday collection goes to support Revolutionary Earth, working at the intersections of economic and environmental justice. I think we have a brief video message from them this morning.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I volunteer with Revolutionary Earth Farm. Thank you very much for your interest and your support of RE. It's about meeting hunger needs in Rochester. It's also about increasing the awareness of the resources that we have right here, right in our own backyards, to address hunger. It's also a movement about coming together as a group of individuals from a diverse background to collectively garden and problem solve together. It's also a movement about caring for our environment. By growing food locally, we are able to reduce our carbon footprint and better care for our earth.
You friends, I am so excited that some of you are willing to come out on Saturday, April 30th from 9 until noon at the People of Hope Garden to help in a fence construction project. We will be taking down some of the existing fence and reinstalling a new fence to double the footprint. Please bring a water bottle and leather work gloves if you have them. I will be communicating any weather postponement plans with Reverend Luke, and he will get a hold of you. Thank you so much.
So Saturday, April 30th in the morning, 9 to noon. There's some information in the e-news, or contact me or the office if you'd like to participate. And later on Saturday, April 30th, we have a big event here at the church for the annual auction, and Gail Bishop has an announcement for that.
Thank you, Luke. On Friday, you all should have received an email that will tell you everything you need to know about the auction, which is happening in a couple of weeks, and I'd like to highlight some of the things that will go on at that point. This year, the auction is going to be both a virtual and an in-person event. We've traditionally held the auction in November, but because of COVID, we moved it ahead in the spring, assessing the health and vitality of our community. So this makes it inclusive for everyone to have an online portion as well as a virtual portion. So the virtual portion will begin April 24th through the 29th, and that includes your opportunity to bid on some silent auction items as well as some fixed price items. And beginning today, you can certainly have an opportunity to buy some raffle items, which range everywhere from $1 up to $15 for particular items, so you can check out the table in the foyer downstairs. And if you're unable to attend the auction, we do have an opportunity for you to donate online to the church or to Possibilities, which is our charitable partner this year. Then on April 30th, we have the live auction. And at 6 o'clock, please join us at the church for an ice cream social. There's free ice cream from Flap Doodles. We have a variety of flavors, including a vegan option. And there'll be some carnival games for both adults and kids. And then the live auction begins at 7 in the sanctuary. And we're lucky this year again to have John Kreisel as our auctioneer and Stephanie Podolsky as our MC again for that. We're accepting bids for our we're accepting donation beginning today, and you can do that online. There's some QR codes downstairs that'll take you directly to the donation form. There'll be some folks at the table in the foyer that'll help you. We also have some paper options there. And in order to be able to bid on anything in the auction, you'll need a bidder number. So you'll need to register for that number, and if for some chance you attended the auction in 2020, you already have a bidder number, and you will receive access to that number and that code a few days before April 24th. And if you're not sure, just talk to the folks at the table down below. This year's auction goal is to raise $25,000 for our church annual budget. That helps satisfy things for this year. And also we have a target of $4,000 for possibilities, and you can see where your donation will go in helping that particular organization. So on behalf of the auction team, and that's made up of Nathan Harf and John Hilmers, Beth and Tony Thompson, Kim Edson, Angie Joyce, Connie Schulk, and myself, we thank you for your participation, whether that's going to be virtual or online or both.
So a lot going on. So a Thursday evening service, donuts in the park this Saturday. You can see all this in your e-news, and then the auction at the end of this month. A lot going on to stay connected in community. So I invite you to take a breath wherever you are this day, online, here in the sanctuary, as we enter into this time of worship with these words of our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together.
Today's chalice lighting words come from Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed.
Number 1064 in your teal hymnals. 1064.
Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my gallant heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue home. Sun, my sail, moon, my rudder, as I fly the starry sea, leading over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of heavens in our beautiful dream. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, read the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born
So I'm going to ask the children just to stay where they are this morning because these pictures are so cool in today's book that I want you to be able to see them. They're made with, of course I just looked this up, but she does some reverse scratch. Oh, where's Greg? He would know. Thank you. And then scratchboard, and then she colors in with watercolors and all sorts of other materials to make it stand out. So today's story is we've kind of talked about reawakening this month, even though our theme is awakening. So this story kind of reminds me of what happens when nature begins to reawaken. It is called Creek Finding, and it is a true story, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end. It's written by Jacqueline Briggs Martin and illustrated by Claudia McGee. The creek finding machine is an excavator. An excavator is a machine that chomps dirt. Excavators dig holes for basements, trenches for water pipes, paths for roads, and sometimes they help find lost creeks. But how do they do that? How does a creek even get lost, especially a creek that started long ago with a spring that burbled out of the ground and tumbled itself across a prairie valley? The creek wasn't just water. Insects whirred in and around the creek. Brook trout grew fat in the creek, lunching on insects. Frogs chirped by the creek, ready for their buggy share. Birds watched at the stream side, hungry for bugs, fish, or frogs. Well, here's the thing. The creek did not lose itself. A farmer used a bulldozer to stuff the creek with dirt so he would have more space to grow corn. No water bugs, no frogs, no birds, no brook trout. The creek was lost and quiet under the sun. Years later, a man named Mike bought that field in the hillside. Mike wanted to grow a prairie in the old cornfield, to partner with the sun and soil and grow tall grasses and flowers. One day, Mike was out working, and a neighbor came by and said that long ago he had caught a brook trout in that very spot. A brook trout in the cornfield? No way. Mike knew there must have been a creek on that prairie. He wanted to find the creek and make it a place for brook trout, birds, bugs, and frogs, and he said he would call it Brook Creek. Others laughed. They said Mike's plan was foolishness. Lost is lost. But someone gave him an old photograph, and he marked the creek's path, and then he called his friends who owned the big machines. For 5 days, a bulldozer scraped and an excavator bit into the ground and carved holes and dug tunnels and runs and tampered rocks on the creek bottom. The excavator had found the old stream. Would the water fill the path? Mike said the water will remember. It seeped in from the sides and raced down in the rifles and runs and burbled into holes and filled the creek. But a creek isn't just water. It's plants and rocks and bugs and fish and birds. Mike and his friends tucked cordgrass and other green shoots into the creek banks. 3 summers these grasses grew, and when the creek bed needed more rocks, Mike had a problem. Heavy trucks crossing the creek would press deep ruts into the ground and kill new prairie plants. So how could he get these rocks to the creek? Mike was a pretty smart guy. He waited until winter, when the ground was frozen hard, and then he brought cement trucks across the prairie to empty their rocks into the creek. They left no ruts. The rocks settled in and more plants grew. Insects flew in and whirred and buzzed and laid eggs in the water and on the grasses. And after 2 years, small fish called sculpins swam into the creek. And this was really good news. Sculpins survive only in clean, clear water, the same kind of water that the brook trout needed. A pickup truck carried the tub that held the trout, and Mike and his friends laughed in the morning air and lugged and dumped buckets of finger-sized fish. Perhaps the Brook Creek laughed too, tickled by trout. Water was right, food was right, Trout snapped up bugs and grew for 2 summers. And in the second fall, the rocks provided the perfect place for the fish to lay eggs. Then winter came. Would the eggs survive? Snowstorm, ice storm, cold wind. Then one late winter morning, fish squiggles, no bigger than a thumbnail. Squiggles grew into fat trout who laid eggs in turn and hatched more generations of trout at the brook creek. And if you went to the creek with Mike, you'd see the water. But a creek isn't just water. You'd see brook trout and sculpin. You'd hear the outdoor orchestra of herons and snipe, bluebirds, yellow-throat warblers. Frogs returned home, and insects, thousands and thousands and thousands of insects. You'd hear the ripple and burble of the water, maybe a chuckle, maybe a thanks, to Mike and the big machines that found the creek. Now, I bought this book early on in the pandemic at a local bookstore up in Perham, Minnesota. And at the time, it didn't mean anything to me when I read who this book was about. But here's a little information about who this Mike person is. Michael Ulsterholm grew up in northeast Iowa in the Driftless, a region of steep hills and deep valleys, never flattened by glaciers, unlike most of the Midwest. He went to college and earned a PhD in public health. He is recognized around the world as an expert on infectious diseases. His work focuses on keeping people healthy, preventing epidemics or illness from contaminated food or bioterrorism. He has received many honors for his efforts. So I found it very fitting, in this month of reawakening, that this story crosses through both of those boundaries. Children, Joe will play the children's benediction and we'll meet you over there.
During June 2020, in the beginning days of the pandemic, I had my 30-year anniversary at Mayo, signifying, among other things, that somehow I'm now eligible to retire. The combination of this milestone and the pandemic gave me, and those who started around the same time, pause to consider how we're living our lives. It can be easy to get into autopilot and just do things the same way day to day. Being forced to shake things up and become permanent remote workers was in some ways a blessing. Early on, a group of us started having monthly Zoom sessions, then dinners, just to check in with one another. Previously, we would see each other perhaps more frequently, but we didn't take the time to really talk and to listen. Now some in this group are deciding to retire or perhaps find a lower stress job so that they can spend more time with family and to travel, things that were always a someday. The pandemic made it clear that not everyone makes it to someday. The pandemic, judging from news articles, they're not alone. recent report on PBS noted that since February 2020, some 2.6 million more Americans than expected have retired. And some of this was likely driven by health concerns, but some of this was also because of a reassessment of values. Now, not everyone has the luxury of being able to retire or is even at a point to consider this as an option. But taking that time to pause, to think about how we spend our time, is something everyone can at least consider. Several other coworkers have said offhand that they would think about quitting if they had to go back to the way things were. And for me, I think the challenge will be not to fill up my time again. And I want to be able to take a day off and just go on a walk in a park or visit a museum with a friend or to plant a garden. Our theme this month is awakening, and for me, I see that as a reminder to awaken to the possibilities of other ways of living.
This is a song inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh, who recently passed away. You may be familiar with his work. He was a Buddhist monk, and for many years he wrote books about mindfulness, the practice of being present to the moment and the place where you are as a means of spiritual fulfillment and joy in life. And so he has lots of wonderful sayings. One of them that inspired this song is happiness. There is no way to happiness, said Thich Nhat Hanh. Happiness is the way. Happiness is the way. So here's a song inspired by that called Happiness.
Human being, where are you going? Is there any way of slowing down your restless pace? Since you got legs, you have been racing, running from something or chasing some demon away. And so every day's the same old thing. When the bells of morning ring and you think that your life is like you're riding on a train, with happiness a destination that you may only reach one day. But there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. There's no place you need to run to. Every place is there inside you. Everywhere you long to be. And joy whenever you may know it, happens only in this moment, in this very cup of tea. So here and now is where you disembark, where you arrive and not depart. where you start to stop and feel you're not just riding on a train, with happiness a destination that you may only reach one day, because there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So here and now is where you disembark, where you arrive and not depart, where you start to stop and feel you're not just riding on a train, with happiness a destination that you may only reach one day, because there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Hey, human being, where are you going? Is there any way of slowing down your restless pace?
Good morning. It is good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. Be enriched by the presence of each other and draw yourself closer into the heart of love at this time of service and reflection. It is our time to pause amidst the busyness of our lives, to slow down enough to consider the beauty that is here all around us, and to open a space for listening and love. Here we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Ronice Donovan, serving as our caring coordinator, arranging care for our members and friends in need. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. These last 2 years have taken a lot out of us. They have taken a lot from us. If during this time of increasing needs in our lives you are experiencing challenges, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. Many of us may need additional care, whether it be personal pastoral care or other assistance, and we encourage you to reach out to Reverend Luke or myself for that request. Today's beautiful and full greenery are shared by Morgan and Derek Robertson. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those who are experiencing sadness, illness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. We revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. May all of us find love, hope, joy, and healing strength in our community. Naomi Atterbin, longtime friend of the church, passed away on April 4th with her family by her side. They honored her at a celebration of life yesterday, sharing that through Naomi's rich life, she practiced as a psychiatric nurse. She was an avid runner and volleyball player. She taught swimming lessons to Michael Douglas, was an active member of Minnesota Democratic politics, attended every party she possibly could, and loved the food at all of the events and dinners that she invited herself to. She pushed She pushed the Rochester community to be better through her social justice work and her accepting spirit, and she will be very missed. We hold in our hearts her children, David, Judy, and Alexandria, and all that knew Naomi. Connie and Dave Schulka are thrilled to announce the birth of their new grandson, Gabriel James Cardenas, born on Friday, April 9th to Amanda Schulka and Adam Cardenas in South Carolina. We celebrate with them and welcome this new life to the world. And we are so happy to share that after a few tough months, Pat Silgenberg is getting better and back to her new normal. She shares that the cards and notes, meals, flowers, thoughts, and love from the congregation are all more appreciated than she has words for. And she thanks everyone from the bottom of their working hearts. We continue to send healing thoughts to Pat. As our UUs have been doing for over 150 years, we are continuing to adjust to an ever-changing world and new ways of doing things. Through this time of adjustment, we ask for hope and patience, understanding and acceptance, and a renewed commitment of service to those in our lives, church, and community. May the faith in the spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
I invite you to breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning, and above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment, this breath, yourself made of earth and stars. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life, source of love, God of many names and beyond all naming. Isn't it astonishing how under the same sky, different lives and countries, borders or relationships, hearts and identities can feel like they are in different worlds? Where someone finds the courage in their soul to be true to their identity, and parents working to protect or support or guide their children are told by some in government that support for trans health care for children is somehow wrong or abusive, entirely missing the moral truth that limiting the expression of our sacred identities is abusive. It can be astonishing that such courage and love and acceptance can be met with cold-hearted moral bankruptcy and fear. It can be astonishing how a country can cast violence on train stations or hospitals, and those are only the atrocities we know of that we can view, that are reported in the countries and places the world is paying attention to at this moment. It can be astonishing, too, that in the midst of it all, how many families, how many individuals, how many communities or leaders still get up to the day or prepare for the night shift, to still do the work or practice their peace, knowing that the way of justice is not always evident, it's hardly ever linear. So they reach out with whatever they have, bread or kindness. They reach out with legal or financial or policy support, or 1,000 ways that love is made manifest and takes the shape of justice. May we be ever open to the unexpected ways that people find their courage. They find ways to survive and thrive and claim that love and joy always have been their birthright and still are, worth finding in the midst of struggle. We hold in our hearts this day those who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you're holding in your own heart, in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For all the names spoken and unspoken, May we all be held in love and strength. These words of meditation are from Anais Nin. We do not grow absolutely or chronologically. We grow sometimes in one dimension, but not in another, and unevenly. We grow partially. We're relative. We mature in one realm, or we become more childlike in another. The past, the present, and the future, they mingle and pull us backward or forward or fix us in the present, because we know we are made of layers, made of cells, and made of constellations. May it be so. Amen. We'll receive the offering.
Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the earth, eyes lifted to the light, to the light. Hands, branches catching rain. Breathe in, breathe out. Then rising like a stalk of grain. Breathe in, breathe out. Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the earth, eyes lifted to the light, to the light. Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
The First Week by Laura Aberle. If we all agree to, on Monday, we could plant a pollinator garden on every corner and turn over one parking spot per block to vegetables and fruits. But first, on Sunday, we should assemble all the healers, all the yogis, chiropractors, sagomas, and sage smudgers, and ask them to have coffee with the matriarchs and the refugees and the trans sex workers and the small town queers and anybody who's yelled at a marble building through a bullhorn or raised a child in time of war. And by lunchtime, all of us would learn to locate, heal, and fortify our spines. That evening, the musicians would find our diaphragms and teach us new songs to sing while planting. On Tuesday, after the gardens, we would repair every roof, install rain barrels and solar panels, retrieve the lost balls and frisbees and kites, and remember, we are tiny beneath the sky. On Wednesday, we'd fix the heaters so the gas could never be cut off and install a tiny lead filter in every faucet. By Thursday, we would know each other's names and begin to tell our stories. Then the farmers and the roofers and the plumbers would be honored by the lawyers and the doctors who had spent their first week listening. Next, venerations and reparations by the bankers and professors who will learn that education isn't learning and money isn't value, and nothing is like the feel of soil in your hands or throwing back your head and singing. We will ache for love and owning nothing, and for the first time, that will make us unafraid. By Friday, we will be too busy healing, tending, and child rearing for waging war, so the soldiers will have no orders. The police will have quiet radios and no calls, so we will tear apart the prisons and send the guards to rehab, where first graders and nursery workers will teach them slowly to trust humanity again, beginning with their own. We will use the bricks and fences to build community centers for wide porches where grannies can knit and keep watch instead. Saturday would be for rest, hammocks, creeks, and lemonade. We would listen to the earth and the spirits and our ancestors and our lovers and our beloveds and the bullfrogs and the songbirds and the tall grass and the redwoods and the oak trees, breathing for one day every week. And by next Sunday, we would know who else we need.
If you look to the daily news so that you can stay attuned to what matters, you might find that headlines don't describe the beauty of the world. So if you hang your head straight out of bed because you read the doom and gloom and got discouraged, ignore your computer screen and look to see the beauty of the world. Beauty like the sun come down, beauty like the seed in the ground, rising and reaching out, reaching for the sky. Beauty like the life in the land, moving in your own two hands. Beauty like the wondrous chance to be alive. If you're down to your final dime and can't decide what else to buy to be happy, you don't need a credit card to give your heart the beauty of the world. And if you walk the street with tired feet, bending underneath the grief that you carry, lay the weight you brought along down upon the beauty of the world. A beauty like the wind in the trees, beauty like children's dreams, beauty like the sound of steeple bells when they ring. Beauty like ties that bind us, beauty like acts of kindness, beauty like the light inside of everything. Beauty like the sun come down, beauty like the seed in the ground, rising and reaching out, reaching for the sky. Beauty like the life in the land, moving in your own two hands. Beauty like the wondrous chance to be alive. If your whole shtick is tragic hip, but you are sick of being such a big cynic, you can try out a joyful shout, sing about the beauty of the world. And if you don't like to have to wait and think your chances aren't great to get to heaven, maybe one way to save your soul is get to know the beauty of the world. Get to know the beauty of the world. Get to know the beauty of the world.
Thank you. It's not the same. A phrase maybe you've heard more and more in recent months, of a world coming back to some new ways of being. Or maybe you have heard it from a child or an adult about how some food is made. It's not like they would have made it. It's not the same. It's not how we did it before. It doesn't look, feel, taste, seem the same. The chairs are different in the sanctuary. And how the heck did we fit all these chairs in here before? There's still more that aren't in. I don't know how it works, but it's not the same, is it? And somewhere between our own individual personalities and tendencies and some mixture of cultural and social norms, we might find ourselves saying, oh, this is different and fun and new, or we might be saying, this is different, new. Some days I can't quite figure out if I want things to be like they were or if we have learned too much about what wasn't good anyway. And it makes absolute sense for a total reset, to shake out the rug, to start some things over and see what holds still. It's like these snap bracelets. Maybe you're familiar with these sort of things. Maybe you haven't seen them. We have like 1,000 in our house now. It's these snap bracelets. They give you the illusion almost. It gives you the impression of flexibility, of elasticity, of adjustability, nimbleness, change, that it can twist and shift, but then snap. It's just there. It just goes on, and when you try to bring it back and stretch it out, then it snaps that way too. Either way you go, it snaps. It resets to its shape. And sometimes I think when we think of awakening, waking up, it's this impression, this illusion of snapping awake. We know it in phrases: snap out of it, snap to it, snap back to reality, right? That's what rigid systems call for or expect or coax us with: familiarity, normalcy, convention, whatever those mean now. When something gets bent out of shape, out of what we expect, out of what we imagine, we want to snap back to what was. It happens after times of social change. We imagine a new way, a new world, like a new system of public safety in Minneapolis after the murder of George Floyd, among countless others, with massive support from community and city council. And then, after some time, after some discussion, after contention, we give the illusion that the reasonable thing to do is just to adjust a little bit. Just a little bit of change is needed. That'll fix it, certainly. Just a little flexibility. But in reality, often many of us, enough of us, just want to snap back to what was. So we snap back to a system of policing as it has been for generations, which is in itself a remnant of slave patrols that guarded and protected property over people. A system that's rooted in property protection. That can't just seem to imagine, we as communities can't seem to imagine or redesign or abolish old systems that keep troubling us. We want to snap back to what feels reasonable, what's familiar, rather than imagining what could and might be possible. Better training, we think, or different training or policies, that's the reasonable thing. Or it's like in the work of Revolutionary Earth, our justice partner this month, at the intersection of economic and environmental justice, not just to grow food in sustainable and ethical ways, but to grow food to feed people who otherwise might not have enough. With the philosophy, the spiritual conviction that food should be free for everyone. Imagine that. It can be hard to imagine that in a society like ours, and even with good ethical arguments that can be made to justify the work and time and skill of preparing and caring for and making and supporting food, that it should all have monetary value, we think, because that's what we assume as the way it has to be. But just imagine for a moment if food had no cost, that we provided as a community free, fresh, healthy, for body and earth food for everyone, anyone that needed it. And it makes us ask the question, expand the imagination of possibility, and ask, does everything need to be monetized? Or as Christopher Brenna, the executive director of Revolutionary Earth, said in the forum this past Wednesday night, in our gardens we make it impossible to buy food. You can't buy it. It's not allowed, because we don't believe someone should need to pay to eat to survive. Those questions, where something shifts in your mind and you imagine something different because of how somebody said something or how they acted, they bring some different imagination to you. There are moments where the imagination prefers to snap back, where reasonableness, this balanced approach our common white cultural normative narrative equates moderation, moderate perspectives with virtue, and radicalism with danger. But we know throughout history that it takes 1,000 approaches, different moments, tactics, imagining new ways of being for any change to happen at all. Most often, it first takes imagining a different world as possible. Thoughts and actions rooted in flexibility, elasticity, more like a rubber band than these snap bracelets. That once changed, a rubber band doesn't go back to the same shape, right? It's stretched out differently. It's changed somehow. And as much as a rubber band might be better than this bracelet, even that is limited. Can only go so far before snapping or breaking itself, before needing something else, something different entirely to hold. Sometimes I think a new world only starts when we start stretching beyond what seems a little normative, familiar. A little further, a little broader, a little deeper. That's just the beginning. And over time, you imagine what else might be possible. The Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd writes about this sort of justice work, this soul work, speaking about predominantly white Unitarian Universalist congregations, which are most of them. She says, this is not a game, this work for justice. We're not going to win. Nothing in the work of dismantling racism or creating a just world is inherently or easily doable. And nothing that any of us bring to this work will ultimately result in some perfect outcome. We're not going to win, she writes. Nothing we do will be perfect. Most of the time when we're in this essential work, you may not be personally having a great deal of fun, but it will break you open if you're paying attention. Finally, she writes, there's an idolatry in expectation that drives us in the liberal church to imagine that the dismantling of all oppressions is achievable through our own individual efforts. We often don't like to enter vulnerably into work, she writes, that may not definitely or definitively succeed. She says the transformation of institutions, theologies, the self, it's difficult. It proceeds at the pace that trust is built. And then there's always a chance to tell a different story about who we think we're meant to be. I love that phrase she uses, that it proceeds at the pace trust is built. That is profoundly and painstakingly true, isn't it? Like so many things in life and relationships and communities of how to build trust, how long that takes. It's as messy as spring mud sometimes, and yet it's work we're called to all the time. It proceeds slowly, a day, a year, a generation at a time, a breath at a time. Similar to how we actually awake in the morning, at least most of the time, I think. An awakening is rarely a startled, immediate jump out of the bed and attack the day sort of thing, at least not for me. Maybe it is for some of you. But it takes a little time, more natural, slower response a little bit, to awaken kind of slowly, bleary-souled maybe. It takes some time to transition from dreams to waking, to come into the new day greeted by sun or rain or sleet. Cursed be sleet again this week, but often we find our way slowly, don't we? Just a day at a time, to know what our work of that day is and what it isn't, what gifts we have to offer, who our people are, how our community might keep expanding, keep broadening, to include everybody. And day by day, name by name, soul by soul, more and more are part of who we are and how we define that. If we all agreed to, writes the poet, we could plant a pollinator garden on every corner, turn over a parking spot to each block to vegetables and fruit. And can I just add to this poet, there's no reason really for me to preach today at all with a reading like this, a reflection like Beth's, music like Peter's. There's not much I have to add. So for the real preaching today, I just want to repeat some of these poets' words. I think it's important to settle into that. There's an old practice called Lectio Divina where you read a piece of writing or scripture or poetry over and over and hear the deepening meaning throughout it. It's a belief that nothing is static. So the poet writes, on Sunday we assemble all the healers, anybody who has yelled through a bullhorn or raised a child in times of war. Musicians would teach us new songs to sing while planting. We would repair every roof, install rain barrels and solar panels, and remember we are tiny beneath the sky. We'd fix the heaters, we'd know each other's names, we'd tell our stories. Farmers and roofers and plumbers would be honored, learning that money isn't value and nothing is like soil in your hands and throwing your head back to sing. By Friday, we'll be too busy, healing and tending for waging war. Soldiers will have no orders. Police radios will go quiet. First graders will teach them their humanity again. We'll build wide porches where the grannies keep watch. And on Saturday would be for rest, hammocks, creeks, lemonade, listening to the earth and ancestors, songbirds and oak trees. And by next Sunday, we would know who else we need. It's one day at a time. And if we can change, we know it only happens at the pace of trust, transformation at the pace of love that doesn't rush ahead of itself, that takes its time to wake up slowly, to gather your head, your mind, your heart, and your people. And then moments ago, something that maybe didn't feel possible might start to feel possible. Maybe that imagining, that elasticity of mind and heart and soul is exactly what we need week in, week out, moving beyond perfection, beyond convention, beyond fixed, rigid expectations, until we always end the day, the week, the work by wondering, who else are we meant to meet next? Peter's going to lead us in our hymn, Turn Me Earth.
Here's a song that on the verses, I sing a line and then you sing a line. It's a call and answer kind of form. And your lines are, turn me earth. You know what? Yeah. We go way back, Luke. We go way back before I changed the words to this song. Now, I'm going to sing this version. Okay. There's only two words different: waiting dawn, and the current version is morning light. So, but you know what? Let's do that version. So We are all adaptable. Yes, we are. It gets back to the sermon. So the verses, my lines change, yours stay the same. So it goes, I go, turn me earth to a new sunrise, and you sing, turn me into the light of morning, and I sing, turn me earth when I close my eyes, and you sing, turn me into the night, like that. Okay, so on the verses, your lines will always stay the same like that. Mine will change. And then, on the chorus of the song, turn me into the waiting dawn. Yeah. Turn me into the night. Let's just sing it. Here we go. Turn me earth to a new sunrise. Turn me into the light. Turn me earth when I close my eyes. Turn me into the night. Turn me earth to blackbirds trill. Turn me into the light. Round again to the whippoorwill. Turn me into the night. Turn me into the waiting dawn. Turn me into the night. Again, turn me into the waiting dawn. Turn me into the night. And as you're spinning light and dark, turn me into the light. Turn me earth around your star. Through the seasons we will go. Summer rain and winter snow. Turn me into the waiting dawn. Turn me into the night. Turn me into the waiting dawn. Turn me into the night. Mother Earth, your child I am. Turn me into the light. I was born for this dance. Round and around the sun we fly. Into the light. Thank you for this light. Turn me into the waiting dawn. Turn me into the night. Turn me into the waiting dawn. Turn me into the night. Turn me into the night. Turn me into the night. One night. Turn me into the night.
Just a second. Yeah. So I invite you to take a breath, and as you're comfortable, put a hand over your heart or toward the sky or the earth in gratitude. And may we constantly and always turn toward wherever we are meant to turn next, whatever lyrics they are, whatever hope we can find, whatever work is ours, as we keep turning towards love and justice. Amen. You can be seated. Peter's going to play once more for us.
Well, I have one more song for you all. A celebration of springtime in a way for me. It's a song called Water, and every day I drive by our St. Croix River where I live up in Stillwater, and bring my girls to school, and we're always like monitoring the melting of the ice on the river, and it's finally looks like it's all out, and so running water is a hallmark of springtime in Minnesota, and so anyway, I thought it appropriate to maybe just share this song with y'all. It also has a singable chorus, although we don't have the words projected for this one. So, and there's a lot of words, and yet I feel like I should just teach it to you just on principle because it's meant to be sung together. The chorus is. You're going to laugh when you hear how many words there are, but there are several times it comes back, so if you like, you can give it a crack. Maybe you'll be able to do it by the end of the song. So it goes, we are water rising up to the highest cloud, falling free in the rain come down, flowing over and underground. We are water, drops in the river in the wide ocean, running in all directions, then coming together again. You'll get a chance to sing that in a little bit. We are molecules, 2 H's and 1 O. And in most places we are ice and we are cold. But sometimes in the universe, when we find a place like Earth, where the sun is shining and the lovely breezes blow, we are water rising up to the highest cloud, falling free in the rain come down, flowing over and underground. We are water, drops in the river and the wide ocean, running in all directions, then coming together again. We are mist and we are waves upon the sand. We're the ancient holy place where life began. We are tea and morning showers, home to seahorses and flounders, cleaning shirts, quenching thirst and floating motorboats. We are water, rising up to the highest cloud, falling free in the rain come down, flowing over and underground. Water, drops in the river in the wide ocean, running in all directions, then coming together again. We are mirrors to the sky, we shine of all the stars at night, the sun and moon and clouds as they go by. If you find the time, then here's what you should do. Take your heart down to the shore and be renewed. Climb into your sloop and ride us, leap into us, stand beside us. We will turn your planet world the brightest shade of blue. We are water, rising up to the highest cloud, falling free in the rain come down, flowing over and underground. We are water, drops in the river in the wide ocean, running in all directions, then coming together. One more time. We are water, rising up to the highest cloud, falling free in the rain come down, flowing over and underground. We are water, drops in the river in the wide ocean, running in all directions, then coming together again. Coming together again. Coming together again. Coming together again.